If that water wet, it's got gators in it.
Oh, yeah? Well, me and the Lord, we got an understanding. We're on a mission from God.
They shouldn't have given you ashy blokes YouTube.
Cursed be the ground for our sake. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for us. For out of the ground we were taken, for the dust we are. And to the dust we shall return.
All right, good people, good people. Here punching the clock, and since it's a constant subject, I don't know why it's a constant subject this month. For the past month and a half about the matriarchy and the gynocracy, but I went back in the archives and I dug up a couple things that I've done over the years, and yeah, so that's what we're gonna do today. We're just gonna do a little gynocracy talk. So before we get started, okay.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
All right, before we get started, let's go ahead and welcome some people in. Joe's, he says he's all ears. Luther, batting second. AB Media, beam in on transporter pad 7, batting third. I'm listening, batting cleanup. Bam. Adric, what's going on? Eddie, what's going on? And is mine down? And was it Mamdani's world right now? Was that what they call it in the Big Apple? Quentin, what's going on? Saint Cyr, what's happening? Shannon Green, what's going on? Dame Digital, what's happening? John Smith, what's going on? Kevin, what's going on? Snowman, what's up? Hurricane Greg, what's going on? F your feelings, okay? What's going on? Thank God for President Trump. Yeah, he's a reality more than a choice. Let's put it that way. Martin Muhammad says, "Happy Tuesday, chat. Another beautiful day for learning." Okay, true. AW, what's going on? Everyone quotes MLK except the part when he talks about the matriarchy and the black community. Greetings to all. Yeah, that's true. LAXT, what's going on? Mel L, Fernando's, Horowitz, Forever Blessed, Supreme Pivot, what's happening? Jesse, what's going on? Super Duper, Forever Blessed. It's Toya with my Apple, what's going on? Quanta, Vibe Sonic, what's happening? Unsolicited Opinions, Corey McPherson, Sir Him, what up? Kenneth Young, what's up? Sir Him, what is data? Kenneth Young, Ivan Griffin, what's going on? Paul, in my Astro Dog Scooby-Doo voice, okay. Michael N, what's happening? My thoughts on the Democrats telling on themselves by releasing these emails. Yeah, I guess there's blame to go on both sides. We'll see. I guess if it takes Trump down, they don't mind. That thumbnail's crazy. Black women, her. Oh yeah, that's what we call them, Queen of the Ashes. This should be a classic salute. The Almighty be just. I've done it before, but the thing is, I'm just gonna, since we sometimes you run out of ideas. I said, well, there's plenty of stuff that I've done already. Eric Archer has been a crazy day in Black America today. Every day is. Chemistry, what's going on? Oh, I got started late. Thought I was going to catch the playback. Yeah, I'm not at my normal time. Hola, Moses. My dirty foot, Jose. Babu, what's going on? Henderson, what's going on? Prince, what's happening? Pragmatic Prime. Mr. Sir, what's going on? Devontae, what's going on? Willie R, what's going on? Enigma 3000, what's going on? Brooklyn's Finest, Yango, C Merchant, what's happening? Shannon Moore, Palm Beach Mike. Hashtag what is data? Age of Machines, what's going on? Rise Films, Eric Archer, these Democrats will lose again with these Epstein files, in my opinion. We don't know, man. We don't know what's in them. Can't you know? Can't understand. You can't see what's in the pickle jar till you raise up the lid. Dr. Dunbar, what's happening? Said I'm skeptical of the file stuff Dems tend to have. We don't know. Okay, all we're doing is guessing right now about the Epstein files. Okay, same thing we have. You look how long most of the Kennedy files still aren't revealed. Okay, after what 60 years? Yeah, should go ahead and release the Diddy files and the Epstein files and the and the what's his name? The Hillary Clinton emails. Do it all at once. They won't do that one though. Anyhow, let's go ahead and get started. Let's start off with something Jeff said, okay? Because Jeff, Jeff was doubted at first, but Jeff is coming into the. Hey, Mr. J. Matt, what's happening? Not really. If you're gonna leak one, you gotta leak them all. Okay. Gonna leak one, you gotta leak them all. Really, the Clintons the Clintons and I would say the royal family are knee deep into the Epstein files, which I don't think they're going to be released. I really don't. We'll have to see. I'll believe it when I see it. The thing is, if once you break with somebody, the other people that do know that are they're actually privy to it, they'll start talking. Okay, they'll start talking. Once they'll have nothing to lose, so everybody will start talking. Um, I'm just gonna play a little clip of what Jeff said about the 5 things that you cannot discuss in the black community that are sacred. Okay, and that'll lead us into our talk.
Everything they've done wrong. I want the whole list.
All right. Jesus, MLK, Barack Obama.
Boy, you're going too fast now. I gotta write these down. This is
Okay. Jesus.
Jesus. We got Jesus. Okay.
MLK. Junior,
Dr. Martin Luther King. Yeah,
Yep.
Got him.
Barack Obama. Black women and the Democrat Party. That is the untouchable 5.
That's it. So
That's the untouchable 5.
Hold on. I need a bigger song. Jesus. Okay.
Jesus, MLK,
Yep.
Barack Obama, Black women, and the Democrat Party. Those are the 5 untouchables where you cannot speak, especially publicly. You cannot say, you have to treat them as all in the tier of God level. You cannot critique. You cannot criticize. You cannot have questions. And if you don't outright support, you're a hater, you're a sellout, you're a coon, and you're to be shunned from the rest of the community. That's how they function, and that's how they move. And it's the most the level of delusion where the same group that will tell me about systemic racism here, systemic oppression there, and the government is rigged and the white man is running it, when it's their turn to win the election, now we got to trust what the government say. Trust the science, trust the experts, trust the government. So this is the schizo back and forth craziness. I'm looking and I'm like, wait a minute. So when it's the guy you don't want in office, when it's the party you don't want in office, we can criticize it. We got these no kings protests and all this BS. I ain't seen no black people there.
You ain't going. That's for the white liberal. Didn't Malcolm tell you about the white liberal?
Hey, go ahead. Because
they're all liberals. Okay, there is no conservative. They're all liberals. Okay, they're all liberals. One thing you don't understand. He is right. He is right. Everybody knows he's right. Okay, I get even in the pro-black circles, he's right. Okay, as much as they curry favor against the Democrats. Okay, this is something that I did a while back. Okay, it didn't get that much attention, but this is the Kerner Commission. I'm gonna speed it up just a tad. The Kerner Commission, which is the surveys the commission did right after the 68 riots. Okay, you had 33 riots in 1968 in the black so-called ghettos, the black communities. They actually wanted to find what were the reasons behind it. So they did a survey and they put it together, a 750-page book, right? Okay, And one thing they put in it is about the black matriarchy, okay? Because that is a question, that's something that Moynihan got from Clark and Fraser, okay? He put it in his report, the minor report, right, about the black matriarchy, which set the women off. And so the Kerner Commission went through and they surveyed people and they took a look at the urban black communities, okay, and these are their findings. They actually agreed with Moynihan. So a lot of stuff that the Moynihan report espoused, the Kerner Commission actually went in and did the work and did the service and found that I wouldn't say everything he said was correct, but not 90% was correct. Okay. The feminist black women have dogged out MLK for his alleged infidelities, and no one pulled their 304 card on it. Oh yeah, they got the card pulled. Oh yes, they did. Oh yeah, the feminists got pulled. You don't see them do that very often. Okay, they'll do it every now and then, but for the most part, the feminists get chin checked. Okay, trust and believe they get chin checked. They'll do that every now and then, but they get chin checked. Okay, they do. Not in front of the scenes, but behind the scenes they get chin checked. I've heard them get chin checked. Okay, that's not something that they do very often. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, this is my piece I actually did on the Kerner Commission. I marked it up, the parts of it, and it starts. If you have the book, it starts on page 278.
Commission, right? Comparing chapter 9, comparing immigrants and the Negro experience. It's actually very well done. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but what I really want to focus on is because we actually, if you want to see the whole thing, we actually read it on Art of New Styles, Art of IBMOR's channel. I talked about the Kerner Commission. I do believe it was episode 4. Okay, what I want to emphasize is the cultural factors. This ties into parts of the Moynihan report, right? Especially when they said that the black community was not patriarchal and it was a myth, and they were slagging or basically defaming black women, and they were blaming the victim, right? They said that the stuff wasn't true. Now, this is the Kerner Commission, which is the actual study that was actually proposed by the Moynihan report in 1965. They actually did the actual study. I do believe it was 1,500 people that was actually proposed by Johnson after the 1967 riots. So the Moynihan report was the proposal. This was the actual study. This is a 700-page book, folks. This is a very lengthy study. I think they did over 22 cities, urban centers, if I'm not mistaken. Very extensive. But anyway, cultural factors. Cultural factors made it easy for immigrants to escape from poverty. They came to America from much poorer societies with a low standard of living. And they came at a time when job aspirations were low. When most jobs in the American economy were unskilled, they sensed little deprivation in being forced to take the dirty and poorly paid jobs. Moreover, their families were large and many breadwinners, some of whom never married, contributed to the total family income. As a result, family units managed to live even from the lowest paid jobs and still put some money aside for savings.
In other words, basically, the black matriarchy, the black gynocracy came from the cultural centers, okay, where most breadwinners, most men didn't marry, okay? Even though they didn't marry, guess what they did? They still contributed to what? The well-being of the whole. So in other words, that's called the village, okay? And if you go back in matriarchal settings, okay, the matriarchies actually depend on what a whole village coming together, okay? In other words, the extended family is even today. Okay, when I say I live in a gynocracy, which is the women that are around me. Okay, they all link up into a big extended family, and that's the way it works. Okay, that's the only way it works. Individually, they wouldn't make it. Individually, they probably would starve to death. But as a whole unit, family unit, okay, the deficiencies get made up by individuals. And individuals attached to the extended family. Wait, continuing.
or investment. For example, to purchase a house or a tenement or to open a store or factory. Since the immigrants spoke little English and had their own ethnic culture, they needed stores to supply them with ethnic foods and other services. Since their families were patriarchal, their structures were patriarchal, men found satisfaction in family life that helped them compensate for the bad jobs they had to take and the hard work they had to endure. Negroes came to the city under quite different circumstances, generally relegated to jobs that others would not take. They were paid too little to be able to put money in savings for new enterprises. Since they spoke English, they had no need for their own stores. Besides, the areas they occupied were already filled with stores. So basically, this is what happened to black businesses. Okay, they weren't able to move with people. When folks left Jim Crow South, they depopulated the South. And when they got up to the north or to the urban centers, there were already people there with stores and businesses already there. They couldn't move them out. In addition, Negroes lacked the extended family characteristics of certain European groups. Each household usually had only one or two breadwinners. Remember up here, there were many breadwinners. Remember up here, there were large family with many breadwinners.
Yeah.
Down,
See. Yep. See. Large family with many breadwinners.
down here, there are few breadwinners. Generally relegated jobs that others would not take. They're paid too little to be able to put money in savings for new enterprises. Since they spoke English, they had no need for their own stores. Besides, the areas they occupied have already filled with stores. Okay, skipping down. Moreover, Negro men had fewer cultural incentives to work a dirty job for the sake of the family. As a result of slavery and long periods of male unemployment afterwards, the Negro family structure had become matriarchal. Boom. Okay, Monahan.
Yeah, in other words, because of the conditions, okay, because of and the same thing happened in Philadelphia, right? Okay, the same thing happened in Philadelphia. Okay, even as we speak, okay, black women have 1 million more jobs than black men. Black women are more employed, even though when you average out the higher income black men with everybody else, okay, black men earn more, but black women are more employed. On average, black men make more, okay? But black women are more employed than black men, okay? Even right now, even today.
Said it, they're saying it. The man played a secondary and marginal role in his family. For many Negro men, then there were few of the cultural and
the men played a secondary role in the Negro family. This is not Moynihan. This is the Kerner Commission, actually going out from family to family doing the study in urban areas, not in the rural South, but in urban areas, okay?
Psychological rewards of family life. A marginal figure in the family, particularly when unemployed, Negro men were often rejected by their wives or often abandoned in their homes. Rejected by their wives. W. Du Bois talked about this in what? The Philadelphia Negro. Black men that didn't have jobs or couldn't hold steady employment were rejected by their wives.
They were rejected
because they felt.
See, they were rejected by the wives. So in other words, okay, were black men when they moved to urban centers kicked out of the household? In a sense, they were. Now, did the government do it? No. Okay, now, the government didn't do it. Okay, the government, the man in the house rule had nothing to do with black men being pushed out of the household. Okay. Just like in Philadelphia, right? In the Philadelphia Negro, they were pushed out of the household the same way. It's the Kerner Commission in '68 saying the exact same thing about black men being pushed out of the household because of lack of employment.
Themselves useless to the families. Although most Negro men worked as hard as the immigrants to support their families, their rewards were less. Oh, sounds familiar, doesn't it? The jobs did not pay enough to enable them to support their families, for prices and living standards had risen since the immigrants had come. And the entrepreneurial opportunities that had allowed some immigrants to become independent, even rich, had vanished. Above all, Negroes suffered from segregation, which denied them access to the good jobs and the right to unions, and which deprived them of the opportunity to buy real estate or obtain business loans or move out of the ghetto and bring up their children.
In other words, black people were not allowed to have business loans or what? House loans, okay? That's why in 68, 69, they created the SBA, okay? Small Business Association, right? They got SBA loans, okay? And they created FHA so that black people could have access to business loans, start businesses, and also what? Housing loans, okay? Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, anybody?
Middle class neighborhoods. Immigrants were able to leave their ghettos as soon as they had the money. Segregation has denied Negroes opportunities to live elsewhere. That is not as bad as it used to be, but if you look at Ahmaud Arbery, it still exists. Skipping down just a little bit. When the immigrants were immersed in poverty, they too lived in slums, and these neighborhoods exhibited fearful high rates of alcoholism, desertion, illegitimacy, and the other pathologies associated with poverty. Stuff is still with us, folks. The Latinos are actually starting to suffer from this now. Out of wedlock birth rates, divorces, as they get enculturated into the American system, they're starting to see the same things. The difference is they still have an opposite language. They don't speak English, so that is a cultural separation. This is actually a very interesting segment. Like I said, I just wanted to read that part. I may come back and read more of it because there's other things in here that are actually quite revealing between immigrants and black folks. But I'm not gonna endure it. I should have read the whole thing because it is quite short. I may come back and do it. I may do that for patrons. But I just wanted to read that part because we always talk about this, right? We always talk about this, about the cultural differences, the difference between a patriarchy and a matriarchy. They said it right there. They said it in the Monahan report. They're saying it here. Interesting. Peep game. History is very revealing. This is very consistent from Du Bois to Frazier to Clark to Moynihan. They're saying it in the Kerner Commission. They're still saying it today. Even the bell hooks and a few other people actually even talked about the matriarchy. They just keep it quiet. They're bullshitting you.
Yeah. So in other words, this is the reason for the dissolution of the family, because actually, Medium Man actually talked about this, right? About why the family broke up. Okay. Because of welfare. The family did not break up because of welfare. Okay. Did welfare contribute to the family breaking up? Yes. But it didn't. Men didn't get kicked out of the house because of welfare. Okay. Okay. Men got dislodged from the house is because you move from a matriarchal environment, which is the southern environment, which is the same environment that you were raised on, that the matriarchy was actually created in, which is was a rural Jim Crow or slavery environment. Okay. And you move to an urban environment with immigrants and other cultures. Okay, immigrants. The urban environment is created by by white people. Okay, in Northern Europe. Okay, and when they brought that model over to the United States, and so the immigrants coming over from Europe adopted that because that's where they came from. But guess who didn't? Black people. Okay. The black culture was not socialized to actually survive in this environment, which is something that Moynihan said. You're going to have to change these people to allow them to actually adapt to the environment that they're in. And then other things came in like feminism, all that kind of crap, which is we've already gone through that. Okay, so what actually broke up the black family is not. I'll say it again: is not welfare. Okay, the the black family actually broke up is because you changed its environment. And I've said this before. Anybody that's followed me in culture, okay, culture is two things: the human biological entities and their environment. Okay, that creates culture. Okay. If you change the people, you change the culture. If you change the environment that the people in, you're going to change the culture. Okay. What changed black culture? Okay. Probably for the worse, okay? What caused the family to break up? You move these people from a place where they weren't needed, which is the rural environment, because the machines came in and took over, to an urban environment. And our culture was not created nor suited to be in an urban environment. That's what caused the breakup. And once the women in a matriarchal environment, which is women and children, and the men could not adapt their role to that environment, they got pushed out. Okay, Uncle Sam became their baby daddy. Relationships have always been transactional. Whenever the eagle flies, bring home those greenbacks or get stepped. It's more than that. It's more than just greenbacks. Okay, because even in a rural environment, you're actually earning less. Okay, they're earning less. But the thing is, because of the way the society families were formed, okay, a man could stay with his woman even though he earned less. Okay, a man could actually earn less and still be a breadwinner or still be part of the family. Okay, in an urban environment, that was not the case. Okay. All right. 30 minutes in. We have one more that I want to do. Okay, where am I? 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 Scroll up, scroll up, scroll up. Come on, kid. Where is it? I did pluck them out. Okay. Let's see. Let's try this one. And women's role in the matriarchy, and have one matrifocal marriage and the gynocracy. Let's try. Let's try the women's role in matriarchy. Which one is shorter? That one. This is longer. Let's try the shorter one. But I want, because the other one came up. Okay. This one's shorter. Oh, here's one. This is a good one, miss, because this is a piece from Sergeant Willie Pete. Okay, that he put in with a little piece of the gynocracy, the modern gynocracy in it. And this piece I did this one. It's called Matrifocal Marriage and the Gynocracy. In other words, matrilineal, matrifocal, okay? And I think the United States is a matrifocal gynocracy, even though they don't hold a lot of seats of power. The focus is on women and children. The focus is on who gets the benefits, right? Cui bono, who gets the benefits. Matrifocal society. I think that's where we are. SWP, yeah. Sergeant Willie Pete. Anyhow, let's.
The company wants him to leave and to move into the city where he spends most of his time at. And every fucking year, the nigga come to me and be like, we gonna, I saw some houses down there. I'm like, well, and keep the ant, nigga, and I ain't going.
Don, listen.
See, I saw some houses down there. He wants her to move the family, okay? Closer to where he works so the family can be together. Guess what she's saying? And nigga, so what, okay? I'm not going. Me and the kids are not going. Okay, you can go there by yourself, which is very common. Okay.
Listen to what I'm saying, please.
But do you understand what I'm saying? I'm the woman now. I'm talking as the chick, the absent chick, because I know what you're talking about, sweetheart. My husband says the same thing. My husband believes that if we pack up and go to a town or to a city or state where the fuck he's getting that check from, he believes that it's like in a man's mind that the wife and children should uproot and leave as well.
Yep, see? It's in a man's mind that he's in charge and he can tell her what to do, and she's duty bound to follow him even though he's making the money. Okay? He's making the money. And guess what? She's telling the nigga, your money don't mean shit. I still run the goddamn family, right? And this is not 1968. This is not 1970. This is not 1950. This video was done in in 2009 or 2010, something like that. Okay.
But nothing is indefinite. So you can be there for 3 weeks and have to bring your ass back.
Well,
so that's why I'm with you, Captain. I'm with you, Captain, because that's the same.
See how she's over talking him. See how she's mommying him. See how she's talking down to him like he's a child, okay?
thing with my husband. This motherfucker would come bring me pictures of homes and shit. I'm like, you might as well get that shit out my fucking face.
Okay, but here's
you might as well get the shit out my fucking. I ain't leaving. I'm not going to that motherfucking town. What happens later? What, he gets a contract, a 2-year contract with them niggas. The contract is null and void within a year. And now what?
Okay, but here's what. Women will avoid, listen to the things that I've said. There are many women listening to this broadcast right now that would say, I cannot deal with that. But I am responsible. I am there. I'm the guy. I'm him. I did it. I'm the guy. But I can't deal with that aspect of following him. That's what I was trying to say all along.
No, I don't think it's her dealing with the fact that she can't follow him. Okay. The thing about it is, let me tell y'all this, okay? One thing that men hasn't, again, you got to study the woman. A woman is like a cat. They don't like to be moved from place to place. They don't like that shit. I'm telling you now. Okay?
I understand
we don't like to be. We don't like.
Listen. You don't understand. You shut up and listen.
I want you to understand the way women are. Okay, for one, so you understand it has nothing to do with leadership or following.
See?
It's the fact that when a woman has planted her foot solid in a place, whether it's with you or not, is that, and abruptly...
It doesn't, she's telling you, it don't matter what the fuck you did or what the fuck I did. If I'm the matriarch, once I plant my flag someplace, I'm not fucking moving, okay? You can go, you can leave, I'm staying, okay? You can leave, okay? You give me some bread or not give me some bread or not give me no money, I'll get another man in. Because the family is the woman and her children. He does not matter. He's there for a purpose, as a resource. He don't matter. Okay?
Move based on finances and all of that, because she's like a cat. She doesn't like to move.
Okay.
She doesn't like to unless she's got it to move the family on her own.
See? Unless she's got it to move the family on her own. Can't say it any better than that, okay? That is a matriarchy, okay? The women in our society, in the black culture, make the decisions. We do not, okay? That's like Jeff was telling. There's 5 things you cannot criticize, right? Okay? MLK, Jesus, okay, because my grandmother, my mother and my grandmother, you can see it on most old black women's walls, right? Okay, Jesus used to be Jesus, John F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King, right? Okay, or those 3 used to be on the wall, right? Until Barack Obama got elected. Then John F. Kennedy got replaced by who? Barack Obama, right? So now it's Jesus, Martin Luther King, Barack Obama, okay? And then what the 4th thing is what? Black women, okay? And the 5th thing is, trailing behind it, is the Democratic Party, okay? I can't tell you how consistent that is, okay? It ain't the black man that black men get criticized up, down, and sideways, okay? Responsibility without... So the thing is, you don't know your place. You don't know your place. In other words, she's trying to explain to you what your place is, okay? And this shit still goes on today. You can go back in time. Basically, but what's his name? Du Bois wrote it in 1890, okay? Frazier, when he's talking about emancipation and slavery and stuff like that, he said the exact same thing. BLM said the exact same thing in 2016, right? When they wrote their manifesto, right? Okay? The black family is the black woman and her children. You are not part of the black family. You are a resource to be managed, just like in slavery, okay? In slavery, the black family was the black matriarch and her children, right? The black man was just there as a resource, not only to her, but also to the master. Shit ain't changed, okay? Anyway, continuing.
You follow what I'm saying?
My
so
point,
a little bit.
Done.
No, we're talking about established men, sweetheart. I want you to get unestablished niggas out your head for a minute, because all I know is established niggas.
See, it don't matter, okay? She telling it doesn't matter about established niggas. It's the same thing, okay? She's telling you out of her own mouth, established niggas, it don't matter. Even though Sergeant Willie Pete said the men had to be established. Bullshit, okay? She talked about the so-called established niggas. Okay, ask Michelle Obama.
Don't even know an unestablished motherfucker. I want you to get that out your head because I'm talking about established men. My husband is an established man.
Okay.
And like I told you several times, my father is as well.
Okay.
His job picks up and go, and he has to go and stay his ass, whether it's in Maryland or New York, and my mom ain't leaving Atlanta. Okay? The only thing about it is, like I said, women don't like to fucking relocate. We're talking about stability, and I want you to understand it has nothing to do with whether or not we would love to follow you. It's the only thing is that it's something in our nature that doesn't allow it, and that doesn't allow it. We like stability. You know, if you ever had a conversation with a chick, she would tell you, I don't want to leave.
But you just
I don't want to leave.
You just said the only way you would want to move is if you could do it yourself.
This is something I was gonna have been planning to do for a minute. This is coming from the book, The Mothers, and it's chapter 4, matrilocal marriage. And the reason I wanted to do this on matrilocal marriage is because when I was glancing through it, it reminded me a lot of the Black community and our patterns. Because when I look at things, especially when I look at culture, I look at human beings, I look at patterns. I don't look for things to be exactly the same way with the exact same story, but I look at the structure of the pattern. And so when I read things like that, I try to find similarities between cultures, between people doing things. And I know there's a lot of what goes on in Black America, and what I call the Gynocracy, matches matrilocal marriage. In fact,
W. Hawkins, remember when Reed, okay, who worked for CNN, who's got a degree from a master's from wherever she got it from. I don't know exactly where, one of these colleges, okay? Very established, okay? Very, very upscale chick. She talked about little dick energy. Huh? Trust and believe they cuss just like that. You know, I don't want to hear it, okay? I wish that... How old is this video? And do I sound less jaded? Nah, not really, okay? You know, if you heard me go off, okay, the thing is, when I read stuff that's historical, you can hear, I don't have that tone, okay? Now, he reads stuff historical, I don't have that tone.
The clip that you heard before I came on with this was from Sergeant Willie Pete's blog talk.
It was Tiffany Cross, yeah. It's Tiffany Cross, yeah. Yeah, she with the little dick energy, yeah. Okay, you ain't heard the others cuss. They just don't. They try not to do it on screen, but they cuss.
From I guess 10 years ago or so, probably more than that, probably more like 15 years ago, from Blog Talk, and she was talking about how Black women did not follow her husband's when they had to work, and follow him. If he had to work out of state, she didn't pack up the kids and move them, and they refused to because they were comfortable where they were, which is very similar to what they say matrilocal marriage. So we're gonna kind of go through this. I hope it doesn't take too long. I kind of marked up my sections so I don't have to read the whole thing, because he goes into great detail about comparing. Oh God, he must have given like at least 50 different examples of a matrilocal marriage from indigenous tribes, as he calls primitive tribes. But he says matrilocal marriage is a very, very distinct feature in primitive tribes. A lot of primitive tribes, as he calls them, or indigenous tribes, as I call them, practice matrilocal marriage. But without further ado, before we go too far into it, because we're like 3 minutes in, if as may be reasonably presumed, human social groups developed out of some form of animal family. He always says it. They had their origin in a type of association differing profoundly from that which is called to mind when the dictum is cited as the family is the foundation of society. The term family, as used as that dictum, is usually understood to connote a group consisting of father, mother, and children. It is round the father that the group is formed. He is the provider and protector of his family.
That's the patriarchy.
The constitution of the family, in short, patriarchal, there exists nowhere in the animal kingdom, not excepting the higher anthropoids. Anything analogous to such a patriarchal family. In no instance is a father the provider and the protector of the group. He's talking about the animal kingdom, not talking about human beings. The father is not an essential member of the group. If not, as often as not, may be absent from it. The animal family group consists of the mother and her offspring and centers around the former. Is that not the Black family? The position of the mother and that of the woman generally in most societies of lowly cultures does not correspond to that occupied by the wife in the typical patriarchal family of historical cultures, and approximates that which is occupied by females in the animal family group. The term is not very fortunate, for it implies
What did the woman say? If she could not find a way to provide for her children, she wasn't going to move from her environment, right? He could go, but it was too big a risk to move her children unless she could provide it for herself. Now, if she wanted to move to another city for a better advantage, she'll move the family, but she's not going to follow you. It's not unusual.
It's a principle of domination, which, while it is conspicuous in the constitution of the patriarchal family, it is not an essential feature of the family in lower cultures. In other words, patriarchy, or the father rule, is not organized around a patriarchy, what he called indigenous culture. But the term consecrated by its uses has not referenced so much to that constitution as to the mode of development of the human social relations. In other words, what he's saying is that as the societies grew bigger and more complex and sophisticated, it became more patriarchal. In other words, patriarchy, in his words, is a system of evolution. So as human beings evolved and as societies evolved, they became more
as it became bigger, it became more father oriented. Won't follow to another zip code for a better opportunity for both of you, but will follow you around the world when you leave. Make that make sense. But she won't move her children.
Father-centered or father ruled. It is not, as it is often imagined, in popular reference to that theory and hypothesis concerning a former society existing at some undetermined period of the past in which women instead of men ruled. You're talking about matriarchal theory. The matriarchal theory of origins, of social origin, sets forth a definite alternative, and the only possible alternative, to the equally definite patriarchal theory of social origin. The latter postulates that the human social group has, from the first, been patriarchal in organization and constitution, that is to say, has always been centered around the male as provider and protector of the subordinate women and children. The issue at stake, as between the upholders of patriarchal theory and the upholders of matriarchal theory, is whether that postulate is or is not justified by facts. If human society did not develop out of a group in which the male was dominant, as he is in the historical patriarchal family, there is no alternative except a non-patriarchal family, or as it is called, the matriarchal theory of social origin.
In other words, if it's a non-patriarchal situation, the default, according to scholars, is matriarchy. The default is matriarchy. The default is not patriarchal. The default is matriarchal, okay? Which explains why when black women got welfare, okay, they let go of their man, is because they could provide for their children, okay? And if the man could not supplant that, they let him go. In other words, she's gonna push him to the side, is because in her mind, the mother and children are foremost. Okay, the man is extra, and if he cannot fill that particular role, especially financially, okay, she will move him out, and then she'll move him away, push him out, and then she doesn't need him anymore. This is not the first time this has happened, okay? It's not the first time that black men have been eased out of their family, okay? That's what the Kerner Commission said, the exact same thing, okay? If the man could not find a suitable job in an urban environment, he got pushed out of the family, especially in an urban environment. Now, in the southern environment, okay, he had a lot more leeway, because you had an extended family. So his role in the extended family was a lot greater. Okay, even though he wasn't earning as much. But in an urban environment where you didn't have as many unskilled labor jobs, okay, and you had to earn more, is because it costs more in an urban environment, okay? Guess what she did, okay? The government stepped in, she pushed you out. Is what it is.
In other words, what he's saying is that the way they define matriarchal theory or matriarchy is that it is not.
This is from Brief Fault to Mothers, yes.
Patriarchal. So if it doesn't meet the definition of patriarchy, by his definition, according to matriarchal theory, anything else has to be a matriarchy. That has been quibbled about. At what point does a society as organized become non-patriarchal? And that's something that we're struggling with right now. Now, we're going to skip past some of this about patriarchal theory that's assumed by pictured in the Bible or the social conditions of human beings. And Freefall disagrees with that. The hypothesis upon which the patriarchal theory is founded is a contradiction in biological facts. In other words, there exists not a trace of a patriarchally constituted family led and dominated by the mature male among any animal species. In other words, if you go by evolution, then the patriarchal theory as denoted does not exist. Now, some people say it's lions, but he said the patriarchal theory hypothesis must therefore either furnish an account of the origin of such a group or assume views on the natural history of animals which are erroneous. Few anthropologists, unfortunately, have been biologists and have therefore found little difficulty in adopting the latter alternative. In other words, what he's saying is it's biologically impossible for a patriarchal family who have evolved naturally under these conditions. He's going through patriarchal theory, but that's not what I want to get to. We can go through this about patriarchal theory according to him if you wish. We can actually go through it. Okay, I don't want to make this too long because we are like 10 minutes in already. But there is also a very considerable number of peoples with whom it is still, or until recently, the custom for the women never to leave their own group and join the men as wives. Right. In patriarchy, women leave their homes when they marry and follow the husband. What he's saying is
what we're just saying, okay? Women leave their homes and follow the husbands, right? Guess what that chick said right at the very beginning? We ain't leaving and following you no goddamn where. And her mother said the exact same thing to her father, okay? We're not leaving and following you no goddamn where, okay? Black women do not. A white woman will get up and fly halfway across the country to follow her man, okay? Okay, black women are not going to do that. Okay, you got to be here with me. You're not here with me. I'm not picking up and moving. I'm not saying all the time. 90% of the time, okay? Unless she ain't got shit going on where she at, okay? She ain't going to pick up and where she's established and follow you. She's not.
It's kind of rare. The arrangement that a woman should, even after her marriage, continue to reside with her mother's family and that her husband should take up his abode in his mother-in-law's house is strange to our notions, okay, to modern patriarchal law. Skipping down, that the woman should remain after marriage in their own home was the general rule among North American Indians, among the Iroquois and the Huron tribes. Marriages are contracted in such a way that the husband and wife never quit their own families in their own home to make one family one by themselves. Each remains in his or her own home, and the children born of these marriages belong to the woman who bore them. I talked about that. Who owns the child? Ownership belongs to the woman that bore them.
In the matriarchal society, okay, in the normal society under law, the children belong to the woman. Okay, that's one of the key markers. Okay, it's not the only marker of a matriarchy versus a patriarch. It's one of the key markers. Okay, that you're leaning that way. Like society is, because of the modern society, is leaning back toward what its default, which is matriarchal. Okay, white society is well advanced. White society may as well be called a gynocracy, right? Because men, for the most part, don't really have rights in the society.
The woman never leaves her home, of which she is regarded as mistress and heiress. The children belong to the mother and acknowledge her only. The father is always as a stranger in regard to them. When in the 16th century, the Cayuga tribes were becoming almost extinct owing to the constant warfare, they sent to the Mohawks requesting them to supply them with a number of husbands for their women, so the race which counted its descent through the woman only might not be extinguished. Here's one, and I've heard this before. The stores were in common, but woe to the luckless husband or lover who was shiftless to do his share of providing. No matter how many children or whatever goods he might have in the house, he might at any time be ordered to pick up his blanket and budge.
Ooh, who does that sound like? Okay, no matter what you put in, okay, at any time, if she doesn't think you're doing enough, you're gonna get put out your fucking house with your coat in hand. She's gonna keep all your shit, right? Modern day marriage, right?
And after such orders, it would not be helpful for him to attempt to disobey. In other words, they might kill him. The house would be too hot for him, and unless saved by the intercession of some aunt or grandmother, he must retreat to his own clan or as often as was done, go and start a new matrimonial allowance with some other. These are the Pookies, okay? In other words, and this is something that
and Pookies do. That's like we have Pookies or certain kind of black men that have what? How many baby mamas? Okay, couldn't get along with one baby mama. She put him out, or she disowns him. He goes to the next woman and start again, right? All everything he's saying could be described to, you know, with a few exceptions, described to the black society as to a T, to a fucking T. Okay, he's the expert in matriarchies. Okay,
Boyce and Frazier actually said, when a woman got tired of you, I don't care how many kids you got by her or what you own, guess what? She can put you out the house.
Mm-hmm.
And Du Bois and the Philadelphia Negro said a lot of black men who were considered shiftless and lazy, couldn't find a job, got booted. What does that sound like? We've heard this before. If you ain't found a job in 6 months, guess what she gonna do? And then you got to go do what? Find you another woman
to lay up with, right? Okay, you got to find a woman that's not doing as well as your previous woman and lay up with. Sometimes with some Pookies, you go on a rotation. Okay, if she's not lonely enough, okay, she puts you out and she might send you to the next woman. Okay, knowing that in a year or two you're gonna come back to her because you go in a circle, and then a lot of times they all know each other. They will actually send your shit to her house. Okay,
place to stay. Find you another woman, certain man here, to take up residence. In Florida, among the Seminoles, it was the man, not the woman, who leaves the father and mother and cleaves to the mate. You know, this is very common in the black community, where the women will band together and help the daughter.
Yes.
To buy a house.
Yes.
Or help daughters to buy the.
In fact, I can tell you. Okay, I can tell you. My family, okay, they didn't do it for me. They didn't do it for me. They didn't do it for my brother. They didn't do it for my son. Okay, my family helped my daughters, okay, and my sisters get an apartment, get a car, get a house. Okay. They never did it for the boys, okay? They did it for the girls. They band together and made sure that she had an apartment or she had a house, okay? Very Southern thing, very black thing, very Gynocratic thing. A lot of people don't notice that. There's a lot of stuff that that's being done that is strictly matriarchal, okay? I don't care how they deny it, and they blame it on white people. Of course, white people actually created a matriarchal condition, okay? And black women refuse to let it go. Still to this day, they don't want to let it go.
Houses, because they said that the daughter has to have a nest, a home for her children.
Yes.
Doesn't say get married, doesn't say get a husband, doesn't say anything else. They insist that the daughter must have a house, have a nest for her children.
Yes, 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 yes. Fuck a man, okay? Black women basically want. In fact, they said it in 1960, I think 86, right? Remember those young girls talking about having babies out of wedlock? And it's enough to worry about. It's enough to worry about having children, okay, and a household for children without worrying about having a man too, or taking care of a man. That's the mindset that still goes on. That's like that woman talking to Captain Solo back then, okay? Talked over him and mommy, which I never liked. I didn't like my mother doing it to me because I'm a Sigma, right? I hated when my mother talked over me and talked down to me, and I couldn't say nothing. But she was my mother, and I was her child. I couldn't say anything. When I got older, all that shit stopped. Okay, when I got 21, okay, all that shit. My mother could not talk to me that way anymore. Okay, but I see, and I constantly see guys take that from black women, okay? Remember, it was Tiffany Cross and Angela Rye, and had two very accomplished black male politicians, okay? And you had the same attitude where they were actually talking over them like they were children, okay? Same thing, okay? Barack Obama gets quiet when Michelle starts talking, okay? He does. She gets a wolf. So, you know, remember when Barack Obama and Craig were actually had an interview, and Michelle was just whoop, 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 and they just let her, okay? And they put their head down until she was finished. That is the gynocracy in action, okay? I always point this out, but everybody's, oh no, it's a patriarchy, and because of this, to 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 this. Bullshit, okay? Bullshit, okay? I'm coming with documents, okay? The housing cost makes that a precarious situation. It's best to stay single from that man. In fact, I was just reading earlier today, okay, about black men in marriage, okay? They talk about marriage is a benefit to men. Let them live longer, blah, 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 blah. And for every other group, that is true. Except for who? Except for black men, okay? Okay, as far as life outcomes, health, all that kind of stuff, being married for a black man does not benefit a black man. Okay, if you know, I looked at the IPV, the interpersonal violence rates, right? The domestic violence rates, right? Okay. Do you know that what brought the domestic violence rate toward black men down? Not being married to a black woman. You know why? You know why black men's lifespan started going up? He wasn't married to a black woman no more. Stopped marrying black women. As the marriages to black women went down, all the other markets for black men went up. Do tell. I wonder why that is. Anyhow, let's finish this out, and then we're gonna get out of here. Anybody come tell you that this is not a gynocracy or matriarchy, okay? Tell them to come with something other than an opinion, okay? Even Sergeant Willie Pete, who was stomped down, patriarchal, it's going to be a patriarchy, even though he wasn't raised in a fucking patriarchy, okay? His mama ruled that household, okay? Sergeant Willie Pete tell you his mama ruled that household, okay? And his dad had his master's or PhD or something like that, okay? His mom has a PhD, dad has a master's, right? His dad don't run that house, okay? Which is half the reason he was pissed off all the time. Even Sergeant Willie Pete, it took him a while, but guess what? He says that the black community is a matriarchy and not patriarchal, okay? Anyhow, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. The thing is, can you adapt the gynocracy to work for you, okay? If black men are going to go back, we're going to have to negotiate with the gynocracy and said, okay, we know we can't change what it is, but the thing is, if it does not benefit black men inside that gynocracy, there's no reason for us to actually go in and save it. There isn't. That's what I would say. Because you're not going to change it. It's going to be a gynocracy. You don't change a whole culture after 200 years back into something that it's not. Okay? So what you can do is negotiate and say, okay, if we have to live in a gynocracy, you're going to have to make sure that your boys and your men get something out of the deal rather than just being used as cannon fodder, okay? We can't accept that no more.
Not our man, but our children. Skipping down. See, we can actually go through the whole thing, man. It would take a couple hours because he gives tons and tons and tons of examples.
I saw your comment, Chaos.
The most notable fact about the organization is that the prominence of the females. The social unit is the maternal clan, defined practically by the consanguinity of birth from a common line of mothers. In other words, they trace the line of the children through the mothers. Each clan is headed by a clan mother. All right, Big Mama. And comprises a hierarchy of daughters.
Each thing is defined by a clan mother, okay? How many, because I ask this question a lot, right, okay? How many black men do you know that can actually trace their lineage, no matter what the last names are, trace their lineages through their fathers, okay? How many black men can actually trace? Well, you might be able to trace your grandfather, but how many black men can trace further back than that? Your father, maybe your grandfather, but beyond that, there's a big wall. But guess what? You can trace your mothers all the way back. What, 6, 7 generations? Why is that? Even though the names were the children's names were actually given the father's names, is because it's not because they actually want to trace your lineage. It had nothing to do with your lineage. Okay. Okay. They gave the fathers the last name. The children, the father's last name is because they didn't want to have ancestral mixing. Okay. In other words, if you run across a woman with your last name, you got to say, okay, what family do you belong to? Whose father? Who was your father? Who was your grandfather? To make sure that there was no incest. Okay, that's how come they gave you. You know, you can have what like my grandmother had 9 children, right? Okay, she had 9 children. The 10th one died. She had 9 children, right? Okay, and she had 4 sets of last names because she wanted to make sure that they could actually identify out in the world relatives, so they wouldn't have sex or have babies with that relative. Okay, that's why. It has nothing to do with you tracing your lineage, because most, because I asked my mother about her father. Okay, and I could tell you there's only like a handful of times that my mother's ever mentioned her father with my grandfather. Only a handful of times. Okay, I don't even know I have no idea what the man looks like. Okay, have no idea what the man looks like.
And granddaughters collectively incarnating that purity of the blood, which is the pride of the tribe. We see this all the time. Dr. Johnson calls this the gynoparental network, or the coven, and I've heard this so many times about.
Let me ask you this, Charles. You can, but how many of your buddies that you know can actually trace their, and you come from an old city, which is Baltimore, okay? How many of your friends can trace back the lineage of their male clans past their grandfather? It's funny when you say that. When I traced my great grandfather and great great grandfather, found his picture, my mother asked me why was I worried about that. Exactly. The only reason you can do it now is because there are records. Okay, she didn't tell you about him.
Men having to go meet the women, the coven, the clan. I've heard several names for it. It was often found difficult to identify the husband in a group, partly because he is, as a rule, incongruously younger than the mistress, and partly because he generally acts as an outer guard. Moreover, his connection with the house is veiled by the absence of authority over both children and domestic affairs. In other words, he is not in charge. He is
he is not in charge, right? Okay. When I was coming up, okay, most of the discipline, okay, like in the Latin community, okay, the discipline is done by the father, okay. And sometimes you can see Latino kids acting up and stuff like that, and the mother's just standing there twiddling her thumbs. Is because she's not going to really spank the kid because she's not in charge, right? In the black community, 9 times out of 10, okay, including mine, okay, my mother disciplined me. It wasn't my father. I can only trace my lineage on my white side or my black side past grandfather. It's impossible. Yeah. Keen observation. They socialize the mishaps, development funding, and obtaining assets towards one side of the family, but expect the other side to do with them. Exactly. Okay. Bootstrap theory. In fact, it was, I think it was, in other words, if you expect help, they call you a bitch. They do. There is exception. I'm not saying, the thing is, we're not saying all, okay? Not saying all. We're talking about the preponderance of evidence, right? Okay? Now, if you have a strong military lineage, yeah, it's because you can actually go back and they keep military records of that, okay? Anyway. Play a little bit more and then we out of here. I have punched my clock. I'm on overtime right now, so I'll play a little bit more. But thing is, I'm showing you guys, and this is on page 110, 112 to 108 to 112, I think it is. Okay, where I'm actually reading this from. Okay, in brief foster mothers. Okay, probably can find it online.
ConcuServe. There indeed some question as to clear recognition of paternity. Certainly, the females have no term for father. It is noteworthy that the terminology for kinship is strikingly meager. The women are the only real workers. The masculine drones limit their activity to fighting and fishing. Yeah, this is something else. If you see, I think it was the Hansu tribe in China. This is their pattern. The matron exercises all authority in the house. Go ahead, Big Mama. But if there is a tumult, she may invoke the authority of the clan mother. Okay, this is Big Mama.
Yeah.
In emergencies, the women appeal for executive aid, but not for judicative cooperation to their brothers. In other words, they would, and I've heard that too, where G said when he got into it with his mother, she went and got her brothers or uncles to go get him.
Yes,
Men take
yes.
little part in the regulation of
Yes.
personal conduct,
Yeah.
but tacitly accept the decision of the mother, the clan.
The clan mother, or the matriarch will sick, as Dr. T said, Dr. T. Johnson said. Okay. Well, actually, pit bull other males to actually go get another male to actually correct him. Right. That's what happened with that football player in Florida. Right. Okay. The female and her mother actually got the other drones in the family to actually go attack this male. They didn't decide it on their own. They didn't ask what happened. All they did was, oh, she did something, so I got to go take care of it because that's my job is to be a drone in the family. Okay, you don't make the decision; she does. You are nothing but a lackey. Okay.
Mother. Okay. In other words, Dr. Johnson just said about women, black women using men as pit bulls. In fact,
Yes.
There was another woman that said the same thing. Because your feelings are hurt, you went and got your brothers or your cousins or some other men in your family to go do some dirt, and they wound up getting put in prison. So what they were saying about the clan mother or the matron actually appealing to the brothers to go do some violence. The men might have 6 or 7 wives living with their families in various places. And they visit them in turn.
Remember back down south where Grandpa had more than one family? Okay. Very, very, very common. Okay. The common pattern of a matriarchy or what I call a gynocracy, right? Okay.
Doesn't that not sound like the Pookies with 6 or 7 baby mamas that they all live in their own houses and he goes to visit them, right? That sound like this is something in ancient Mexico and in Latin America, ancient Latin America, right? Okay, if she gives him a basin of water to wash himself and something to eat, he understands that her meaning, and they go to bed together. Without her parents objecting, they are thus married. The marriage continues for a longer or shorter time solely according to the wishes of the young woman. If she thinks that her husband is not a good worker or for any other reason, she dismisses him and she takes another, and he takes another wife. This is a certain man here. It's happened a lot when grandpa, we heard about grandpa and grandma have 2 or 3 kids. He goes to fields and he works and stuff like that. And at some point he gets displeases. And so he slowly but surely migrates to another woman's house. And then she has to go find another man. Very common in the black community, the black culture. Now and in the past, this is not new. Not new at all. Skipping down, most of the stuff is examples. The Malay race, which has spread over the whole of Indonesian region, has sent offshoots westward as far as Madagascar, northwards to Formosa and China, and in the early days. Malays, nevertheless, always distinguish between the laws and customs of their adopted religion and their own ancient traditional law, known as Adat. They cling with considerable persistence to the latter. The old form of marriage, known as Anak, is amongst most Malay populations preferred to the patrial local marriage by purchase or jujol, which has been introduced by Islam. In other words, that's patriarchal, where you actually purchase the bride and take her home. You compensate the family. Immediately after his marriage, a Malay husband settles down to live in his father-in-law's house, where there is but one daughter in the family, or in case of a younger daughter, her parents commonly give up the house to her and go live in an annex. The married man becomes entirely separate from his original family and gives up his right of inheritance. Okay, and this is from the
how many black men, okay, I'm not saying all, get married to a woman and get absorbed into her family. Okay, get absorbed into her family. When you get married, you move in her, all of a sudden you get absorbed in her family, and not vice versa. Interesting, right? Okay. Anyhow, I think that is, I'm at 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay, I think that's enough because these are long. I could go on. That's like I didn't pick the other one, even though the other one is probably just as interesting. I may do that one tomorrow. I don't know. Okay, but seeing as these are examples of why, with very keen example why the black community is a matriarchy. I know because black men have pride and they puff out their chest and they said no, black men run the society and it's black men's fault that it's not a real patriarchy and we can do shit about it. Okay, there's something that the guy that came up with the PhD that came up with the term black pill, right? Okay, he was an anthropologist, and he said there are no individual solutions for a societal problem. In other words, individuals cannot change a whole culture. That's why I was telling you, black women were not, as long as the environment was what it was, okay, black women would not get their attitudes right, okay? Now, Donald Trump didn't create the environment, okay? Donald Trump is an actor inside the environment. But when the environment changed and basically the United States started to shift into what it is now, okay, all of a sudden women started to change their attitudes. Why? Because the environment changed, okay? Individual men, I knew in the black manosphere, okay, we have to get ahead of the environment, right? We have to position ourselves in the environment. So when the environment changes, we can actually take take more advantage of it. We can't. Black men are too small. White men are really too small. You cannot change the whole culture in a society, right? You can't change that. But guess what? The environment can. And if we are there to actually take advantage of the environment, we put ourselves on top and actually start to push or lead that way. Instead of trailing the environment, we actually lead the environment, which is why the black manosphere is we positioned it. I'm not going to say it was me by myself because I had a lot of help, okay? We positioned ourselves so when the environment changed and that ceiling cracked, okay, we were actually out in front of it. So now everybody's following us is because we saw where it was going and we got out in front of it, so far in front of it. Now once it started to crack and change, okay, we're already in the lead. We're already 3, 4, 5 years ahead of everybody else. That's how everybody's following us. Even though we don't have the power to change the whole culture, but the thing is we can actually get out in front of it. We can actually steer it, even though it's going in a certain direction. We actually make minor steering directions about where we are and what we're going to do. But I hear, I hear people like I'm not gonna say Jeff. Jeff is part, one of them. Okay, Dr. L's try to believe the same thing. Okay, and maybe I'm too old. Maybe I've done this for too long. I know that it can't be done. But I know what you can do inside of a society, inside of a culture. Okay, if you have the knowledge that you get out in front of it and guide it. That's where the value of the black manosphere and people like us can actually be of value. Okay, you can't change it, you can't push it. Okay, the history and culture and environment will actually cause people to move toward that way. The thing is, you can steer them if you're out in front of it. Anyhow. But don't let anybody tell you that this is not a gynocracy, okay? We prove it every day. Ask Stephen A. Smith, is this a gynocracy? He has to defend himself against what? 3, 4, 5, 6 women, okay? Got him on the ropes, okay? Excellent content and analysis. Appreciate you, Ghetto User. J100, appreciate you with a super sticker. And so I'm arming you with, now go back and you look at the video, okay? Go back and look at the video. Go back and hopefully read the references, okay? Read the book, read the references. So when people come to you and say that I don't believe this, that, and so, okay, These are the examples. You have to give them the video. These are the examples about why we believe that the black community is a gynocracy, is a matriarchy. Okay, according to the experts. Okay, that that actually say what it is and what it ain't. And maybe not everything that they say that a matriarchy is, a gynocracy is, but thing it's like got to be like 9 out of 10. And it's a repeatable pattern in the history of the United States and the black community. A very repeatable pattern, said by multiple people. So I'm trying to give you guys actually academic facts, academic literature, and references to why it is. Okay, because most people saying this shit ain't got nothing. Okay, they're just puffing out their chest and they're throwing facts around, loosely. Okay, without any kind of a depth of knowledge. Okay, so I'm trying to give you guys the so we go up against a feminist, you go against an academic, you can pull this shit out and go toe to toe with them. Okay, go toe to toe with them. So that's why I'm doing it. So even though you guys are not academics, you guys are not PhDs, you are not studied in this, but thing is, this is we procured the meat. Okay, the actual meat, the diamonds, and dug up the diamonds for you guys to actually use. So basically, and once you start using this shit, very few people can actually stand up against it because they can't disprove it, including the women that actually are experts in matriarchies. They can't disprove it. As John Smith says, this community is toast when our leaders, but when give exponentially more respect to Pookies than they do to the Ben Carsons. It's over. That is true. I'm not even going to get into that because it's very hard to lead a Ben Carson. It's like they resent a Ben Carson. Michelle resent. Don't know if she loves him or not because it's an arranged marriage. But Michelle Obama resents Barack for being who he is. Really does. She resents Barack. For every Sierra, you're going to get a Michelle. You're going to get 10 Michelles. Okay. Sierra was one of the few that actually admires and follows her husband. Okay, one of the few, which is why I like Sierra. Okay, who's the opposite of Aisha Curry. Aisha Curry ain't got nowhere near the fame and wealth of a Sierra. Okay, nowhere near. And look at the shit that she talks. Okay. Compared to Sierra. Jada Pinkett the same way. Jada Pinkett ain't got nowhere near the fame of Sierra. Because Sierra's one of the few that actually respects and follows her husband. So I give her all the kudos, no matter what people say about her, okay? He said we gonna have more kids. Guess what? She gets pregnant. Okay, she don't. I don't want to have any kids. That heifer got pregnant. She gave him 3 more kids? And she didn't say shit. She just got pregnant and had these kids, okay? He said, well, baby, we need to sell some more clothes. You need to go shake your ass, okay? And I'm going to be on set monitoring it. And guess what she go out and shake her ass because we need to sell more clothes, okay? And when they moved from Seattle to Denver to New York, okay, she didn't say shit. She got on the fucking plane and followed his ass, okay? She followed his ass to Pittsburgh, for God's sake. One of the few. And she does look better than both, okay? Well, I'm not saying, because you could have there's a whole bunch of examples that are opposite of Sierra, okay? That have wealth and fame. Oprah's one of them, right? Okay? Oprah's one of them. But Sierra also had a very dominant father who was I think it was an officer in the Air Force or some shit like that. Okay, so she was raised a little bit differently, but seeing she had a more all the guys that dated Sierra said Sierra was very malleable. Okay, she wasn't aggressive. She was very feminine, very malleable. Okay, which is unusual. So I have to give her credit. Okay, she shake her ass because it makes money. Denzel's wife, I don't know much about Denzel's wife, okay? So I can't say it. But anyhow, that's all I got for you guys. So in other words, I think I put up a whole playlist. Okay. I found one more that's talked about the matriarchy and stuff like that. But I'd be all day playing this shit. And I don't want to be all day playing this. But I just want to run down some examples from some of the old stuff that I did. And since I didn't have a whole lot of ideas for today, or what I have is ideas, but the thing is they're not enough for a whole hour. Okay, they're enough for like 10, maybe 15 minutes, but not enough for a whole hour. So I have to. So when I do a show like this, I got to have at least enough to do a whole hour. Okay. And sometimes all the ideas are just not there. So I just decided to dig in the crates and she pull it out. Because sometimes y'all look at this and sometimes you guys don't. Okay. Someone asked what computer brand was necessary for the class. I said that Tandy was an Intel 8088. Oh, that is old, man. Intel 8088. God, I haven't seen one of those in. Oh man. 888. Jesus Christ! I think my first one was 86. Yeah. Wow, that's old. Okay. Yeah. Let me get out of here, y'all, and I will see you guys later. So go ahead and play my my one of my favorite anti-Gynocrats. Okay.
And with that, I just have two more words to say. Obama out.
Музыка Денис Шедер.